Hello, family and friends. I'm JP.WATKINS. Thank you for joining me on your journey to honor your inner greatness. Now, some people may wonder, where does this come from? This whole honor your inner greatness, this whole answering your call to significance. To some, it just seems like a bunch of hogwash. A lot of people are going to be cynics. They're going to doubt that we have as much control over our lives as some of us believe. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a wizard and that I got a wand and that I can just change things magically. But what I am saying is we wield a lot more control over our lives than most of us realize. Often we have been taught, and sometimes indirectly and inadvertently, from childhood, that we have to rely on conventionalism to think like everybody else, to do like everybody else. I remember when I was in kindergarten, they had three color seats: yellow, pink, and blue. And the girls, they were able to choose a yellow or a pink seat. The boys, we were automatically subject to sitting in blue seats. And even at 5 years old, I just found something strange about us having to sit in the blue seats. And, it was a thing then where, pink for girls, blue for boys. And say I bought into that, which I did. I said, well, okay, pink is girls. But I couldn't understand, why didn't we have an option to sit in that yellow seat? So I went and sat in the yellow seat, and Miss Detweiler, bless her heart, she was our kindergarten teacher. She said, James, get out of that seat. I said, why? Why can't I? And she's like, well, boys, this is in the blue seats. And for me at that time, from that point, at that little age, even at such a young age, I called into question things that I didn't deem to didn't make much sense. Why didn't both of us have choice? Why didn't boys have a choice between blue and green seats and the girls had yellow and pink or whatever? Why did one gender have two choices and one had one choice or no choice? So what I'm getting at is I always thought a little differently, even from a very young age. I am unconventional in my thoughts in the way that I pursue things, the way a lot of society assigns value to different things. For instance, diamonds, gold. Notice that I have on an unnamed brand t-shirt. Now that's not to say that I have a problem wearing name brand clothes, but I'm not ruled by it. I have value because of who I am, not because of what I wear. I consider myself a jewel. That's honoring your inner greatness. To know that people value you, they value how you think, they value what you say, they value your opinion, they value your perspective. Not just your outfit, not just your name brand clothes and your signature fashion. People actually value what's up under the uniform, what's up under the outfit, what's up under the t-shirt. So I had a discussion with one of my friends about the value of a diamond. What's worth more? A handful of seeds or a diamond? The diamond. What are you talking about? The diamond's worth more. Well, most people assign more value to the diamond. And since they do, then you would take the diamonds because other people assign value to the diamonds and get currency and then maybe go buy more seeds. Because the seeds can sustain you because you can take those seeds and plant them and you can actually live. They actually provide a source of food. And some would say, well, yeah, the diamonds provide a source of income. But what do we need? Do we need food or do we need diamonds? Others would say, well, we need money. We do need money. Money is a tool, especially in a developed society. But if we're not in a developed society, do we need money? If we live in an agricultural society where people grow their own food, slaughter their own chickens, cow and cattle, and so forth. See, it's all relative. If you live in a developed society, yes, you need money to have access to credit cards and to luxury items and to be able to buy some of the most basic things and to, have access to healthcare and so on and so forth, to be able to get education. But to be unconventional in your thoughts means that you are willing to part way from convention. So I've learned to be in society, but not of society. So for instance, yes, I'm seeking to be a highly sought after public speaker, transformational speaker, to help people honor their inner greatness, to help people find more like-minded people, and to help people help themselves. So they're in a position to help others, particularly the vulnerable. So that's part of what got me on this whole path of my purpose. As long as I can remember, I've been working in human and healthcare services. And even when I spilled into the street life, I still found myself almost being like a street psychologist, wondering and prying and asking questions, asking certain people, man, you seem like this. What drives you to be like this? I remember one young lady, she was a booster for me. She used to always, come with different clothes. Hey, what size is your kids, sisters, and that? And she would boost, and she just had such a pleasant demeanor, such a real smooth disposition. She didn't have that edginess that a lot of people from the streets tend to have. And she was just so laid back, so calm, and so cool. I said, wow, you just got a different energy about yourself. How did you start partying? How did you start getting high? And then she was like, well, to be honest, she was like, one day I was kicked in with my best friend. And, we smoked some weed. And she was like, this weed had me so high. She's like, never been so high in my life. I never felt so good in my life. So then she said she just kept coming back to her girl. Girl, you got some more of that weed? Then she said when she gave her some weed or whatever, she said it just didn't take her to that same place. So then, she kept saying, girl, you got to give me some of that weed you had the other day. Then she said her girl dropped her head, started crying. She said it wasn't just weed, it was a mole. It had crack broke up in it. Then she said once she knew that it was crack she was smoking, turned her whole life upside down. She started chasing that ghost, as they say, chasing that rival high, that first high that she ever had. She said that totally changed her life. From that moment, she's a full-blown crack addict. And what I didn't realize is even when I was in my street life, I was curious about people and their choices. And I realized that one bad decision can be a fatal decision. But often we are the sum of our decisions. We make bad decisions over and over and over. And then when we make those bad decisions, we get labeled. I myself made bad decisions. And I had 2 felonies, 2 drug-related felonies. So I decided to get on this road to redemption. Went back to school, got a bachelor's degree in history, got a master's in history, wanted to go on to get a PhD that intersected history with business. And I had some pretty unconventional ideals. I remember talking to was he the dean? Yeah, he was the dean of the business department. I told him, I said, hey, I would like to get a joint degree in history and business at the master's level. And he was like, well, why would you want to do that? Then I said, well, at one point in time, they didn't have joint degrees with with law degrees and business degrees. You didn't have a JD and MBA. It's very common now. At some point in time, somebody had to have the first one. I said, why not have Akron U be the first to offer a dual degree in history and business? I think essentially an MBA, it dealing a lot with business analysis. You're dealing with financial analysis. And when you're dealing with history, you're dealing with social analysis. So you're dealing with these qualitative issues, those things that are more difficult to measure, but different shifts in society, different things, the influence of TV on the civil rights movement, the difference of public policy as it pertains to African Americans. So you have to have this ability to make these qualitative and a social analysis. And I feel like it's a skill set, the ability to communicate, to read critically. This leans in very easily for a business degree. Well, he bought that. And he said, I never thought of it like that. Tell you what, you get accepted into the history program. I'll coordinate with you and you will have the first business in history joint master's degree. I'm like, cool. I'm thinking I'm on my way to something big. But life happens, right? So I get accepted into the history program. I get an assistantship. So then I go over there to talk to the thing. Something's just different. The whole spirit's different. I'm like, hey, I can't even think of his name. He had a weird, almost like a Russian name. But the long story short, something went on over at UA, and all the upper echelon members of the business department was fired and replaced. So then next thing you know, the intake guy was real cold and callous. I was like, well, so I got an email, and I talked to him. He said, if I got something in this program, he would let me in this program. He would work with me so that, I can have a joint degree. And it was like, well, no, we can't do that. We can't honor that. You have to, take the GMAT and blah, 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 this and that. And because I took the GRE and all that, I just felt like I got to go all this hump, and I felt like they should have honored it, and they didn't. And part of it, I just got into my own spirit of stubbornness. So like, you know what, forget it. I just get my master's degree, and I'll go on. And at the PhD level, I will, seek an intersectionality between history and business, because I don't think, so many people, because people are trained to think linear and to think a certain way. And I was like, don't people understand everything got a history? Businesses have a history, organizations have a history, and to be able to read and think critically and to articulate, collaborate, communicate, and coordinate, these are things that all businesses need. So I don't understand why it's so hard, so difficult for people to see the intersectionality like this. It's not like things are totally, it's not like oil and water. These things will work very well together. So, long story short, I ran into a wall because I was like, well, you know what? I got a ton of debt, over $100,000 of debt. I said, at the PhD level, I'm not digging out no more loans and stuff. At that level, I'm gonna find a fellowship. Somebody's gonna pay for it. And I said, well, what I'll do is I'll teach for a few years while I, search for a fellowship, and that way I can retake the GRE, get better scores, have a decent GPA and stuff like that, and also just get some more social and community work, ways to make myself stand out from the competition, because I knew that, I had some reasonably decent scores, but I knew that I wasn't the brightest. I knew that I wasn't the best. I knew that I was coming from, being a junior high school dropout, self-study for GED. So I knew I had some deficiencies, whereas other people had been to prep schools, they had been to Catholic schools, they had these, elite educations, and some of these people had took honor classes. So they had like 4.4s, 4.2s, and I had a 3.9. That's pretty good. But I knew the competition, so I wanted to be able to stand out and be able to earn a fellowship, but I wanted to work, teach, get a few years of teaching experience. And that's when I hit the wall. I started applying for these places, and I just knew that everything would just fall perfectly in place. I went to school, turned my life around, post felon. And then all of a sudden, when I started filling out applications, it had this question: have you ever been convicted of a felony? And I checked yes, because I knew they would do the fingerprints and run the background checks. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't get no calls back. Everything just froze. Excuse me. And I was like, wow. It went from things going so well. So then, my best friend died shortly after I uh, completed my master's degree. And at that time, I was the whole poor college student. I owed child support. I was working, making like $7.25 when I was going to school. Then I had the assistantship that was paying me. I was taking that. I was paying child support, supporting myself. And so I was living in the basement of my best friend. Then he died suddenly. So that just really put an urgency on everything. So the next thing you know, I found myself up in Toledo with my current best friend, his little brother, and was trying to get things together. And I could find like basic jobs, I could find jobs $9, $10 an hour. But I just found myself being impossibly frustrated. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I can't even get like a management job. And at that time, it's too much back and forth. The long story short is they had changed Ohio revised code that changed the laws. At one point I was working in the field of DDS, working with people that were intellectually disabled that had moved away, uh, you know, to try and pursue a business opportunity with my cousin out in Montana. That didn't work. When I came back to the same job that I worked at, the Ohio revised code was changed, so I couldn't get rehired at that job. I couldn't get hired in that field because I had two similar felons. If I had had two different felonies, I would have been able to get hired. So this sent my life spiraling. So I'm trying to figure out how to be actively involved in my kids' life and stay afloat financially and, pay child support and stuff like that. So that's when I just hit that wall and I started managing. I started managing to get little jobs here and there. And it was so frustrating because I would hear people complaining and they would be like, oh, this ain't make no money, this and that. And I would be working in factories, working through temps like Flex Team, Kelly Services, different places, jobs. And I would hear people complaining about, how much they hated the job, this and that. And I would think to myself, then someone would talk about, how long, hey, after your 90 days, I'm thinking to myself, I ain't gonna be here 90 days. It's like, I gotta leave and go somewhere else. So I found myself, I left, I tried Arizona, had a lot of personal situations, that didn't work. So I ended up back in Montana. Montana had a unique situation. Montana was a city, a state that had a city called Billings, where they actually had more jobs than people. Because people move away from Montana, not too many people move to Montana. And a few other African Americans that I met there, often they found themselves there coming to work. But Montana was so far away from Ohio to where I couldn't really be active in my kids' life like I wanted to be. But I refused to go back to the street life. I refused to go back. I said, I'm not going back. I'm not hustling again. I'm not spending no more time in prison for selling drugs, and I want to lead a good example for my kids. And I was able to do that. And then I hit that wall where I was like frustrated. I was like, here I am, over $100,000 in debt, making $10 an hour, especially when I'm in jobs at Ohio. Now in Montana, I was able to get decent, better jobs, but I was way across the country, and I still wasn't making great money. But I had some jobs where I was getting salary and stuff like that, but I was still, working 100-hour weeks. It was crazy. Social life was nil. And I was like, it's got to be a better way. So when I came back to Ohio this last time, I was basically doing the same thing. I had two full-time jobs and a part-time job, a PRN call. And then I just hit that pivot point where I said, I'm operating faith. I had just started this other job as an adult day service supervisor. And the guy was real nice, a professional brother. I tipped my hat to him, a blessing. And I went through training and everything. But it caused so much violence to my conscience. I said, I can't believe I'm be working 20-hour days. I'm almost 50. Got a master's degree that I'm not leveraging. And I was feeling like, man, these companies won't hire me. They won't give me a chance because my felonies, blah, blah, blah. That's like all this experience, all this education. And like a light went off. It was like, what do you mean? They won't let you. You won't let you. So I sent the gentleman a text. I said, thank you. I said, I apologize. I was like, I just worked 48 hours this weekend. I was like, I bit off more than I could chew. I said, I appreciate the opportunity, but effective immediately I resigned. That was the pivot point of my life. And that's when it really clicked about personal governance. That's when it clicked that you acting like a victim. When you went to Montana, you went there, you created opportunity. So guess what? Just like you went there and you were able to find employment opportunity, now you can leverage technology. Now you can create platforms. You got YouTube, you got Vimeo. You can get out here and shake hands. You know how to communicate, collaborate, coordinate, negotiate. Some of the best skills you can have in a developed country. You got the gift of connecting with people. You got the gift of understanding historically marginalized people. A, because you're one of them. B, because you spent decades working with them. You have served the homeless. You have served the elderly. You have served the disabled. You have served Native Americans, African Americans. You've taught in front of inmates. You've been an inmate. You know how to work with them. You know how to manage them. You know how to lead them. You know how to guide them. You have value. There are people that will pay you handsomely to say, hey, how can I engage Generation X? How can we leverage the talent? How can we recruit and retain them? It's people that they'll pay you for that. It's people that will pay you to figure out, well, train the trainer. Train us. We don't know how to connect with our direct staff kid, our direct staff. Teach us how to manage them and learn how to manage the managers. This was stuff that I was doing, and I was doing at a high level, at an effortless level. The biggest challenge, like if I'd have been willing to stay out in Montana, I have no problem. Several organizations out there that I could have easily been program director, and most other places welcome me back. Say, if they still got the same leadership in place, the one guy, he's like, hey, anytime you want to come back. Because I did quality work. Because I really cared about the people that I was serving. But then I realized I wasn't honoring my greatness. I was working all these days, all these hours for other organizations. And it wasn't in vain because it was giving me a skill set. It was helping me scale and skill up. It was helping me be who I am today. But then when I stepped out on faith, I said, you know what, I'm going to get one job and I make that one job work. And I'm going to work that job and be a part-time entrepreneur until I can be a full-time entrepreneur. Because the key thing of my business was speaking. So I needed to be in front of an audience. I didn't have this, and the whole thing was like, well, how am I going to be in front of businesses? I ain't got no business. I ain't got no capital. I ain't got good credit. I got all this debt. Who going to listen to me? Then that's when I had to say, plenty of people that's out there frustrated, learning, trying to figure out how to be culturally competent, trying to figure out how to plug in with their staff, trying to figure out how to recruit, how to retain, how to manage their talent, especially their direct care and their managers. So I said, but guess what? You got to get out there. And in the meantime, as you get out there and put your story out there, you want to help people to help themselves. That's what I did as a family support specialist. That's what I did as a mental health case manager. That's what I did as a house manager. That's what I did as a direct care professional when I worked in home health. I advocated for people. I spoke up and I helped them self-advocate for themselves. So now all I'm doing is what I'm doing for that vulnerable population. When I would speak up and help a person with disabilities speak up for their rights, the right to have a sexual relationship with another consenting adult that may have disabilities, the right to refuse medicine, the right to refuse food. I had to advocate for those things when people said, well, if he don't eat, he gonna die. Well, if you keep overeating, you gonna die. But nobody's making you not overeat. You got the choice to eat that whole half a gallon of ice cream or not. But nobody's gonna stop you from doing it. So I had to advocate. And now all I'm doing is advocating on your behalf. I'm advocating on that person that feel like, man, I'm not honoring my inner greatness. I'm not answering my call of significance. That's the only difference. So it's a challenge because everybody says you got to have this niche audience. So if I had to have an audience, it's serving the historically marginalized people, especially the vulnerable. But it's also being able to serve leadership on how to train them, how to train those direct care providers, how to train those managers on how to manage the direct care providers, how to help those organizations communicate more effectively, how to be more organized, how to talk to people from all different walks of life, not to be snobby, how to be assertive without being too aggressive. And it's still a challenge. I'm still growing. I'm still seeking mentors. I'm still seeking opportunities. But by you watching this, you know that I'm stepping out on faith. I'm stepping out on action. I took the action. And even though I don't see how all the pieces going to come together, I have a vision that one day I'm going to stand on a stage with tens of thousands in the audience, that I'm going to command tens of thousands to come to speak to people. And I'm going to impact people in ways that they never imagined. I'm going to be what I needed someone to be for me that I didn't have. I'm going to coach and guide people to their greatness. And I'm going to ask you, are you honoring your greatness? What is holding you back? What excuse is hanging in the back of your mind? Personal governance is one of the best philosophies. It's an active philosophy that can get you closer to where you want to be. Why? Because it puts you in the driver's seat. It don't let you sit around and wait around for that company, for that school to hire you. It don't let you sit around and to wait for some policy to let you get your record expunged. It don't let you sit around and wait around and do nothing. If those things, you still strive for those things. If I have an opportunity to get my record expunged, I'm going to do it. Just because that's going to open other opportunities. I actually went and got a TEFL certification so I can go to China. I said, well, you know what? For opportunities in here, I go to China. China, they pay for room and board, decent salary. I can teach business, English. I can experience another culture. However, in China, they do FBI background checks. Anything come up, you can't get a working visa for China. So it's different opportunities. It's different doors that have been closed. But guess what? That's what makes me have the knack of finding a way out of no way. Where a lot of people look and they say, hey, the door is closed, it's done. That's not me. I say, you know what? If I can't go through the mountain, I'll go around it. And that's what I'm asking you to do. What's stopping you? What's your biggest barrier? Is it fear? Are you afraid that you're going to leave your friends behind? Are you worried about that opinion of your parent, that opinion of your spouse. Oh, you can't do that. You ain't got enough talent. You don't look good enough. You got a lisp. For those of you who listen closely, I have a lisp. People told me that I was a dumb MF. People told me I was stupid, that I was an idiot. People told me that I had these lofty aspirations, these empty aspirations. And notice that even when I put these posts up, I could edit them out, I could re-edit, but I don't. I refuse. Because I want you to see that, yes, I'm a human being. I'm a real human being and I make mistakes. And guess what? I'm still going to honor my inner greatness. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Let's make some. It's your turn. It's your time. Thank you for joining my journey. And I hope that I'm sparking inspiration for you to start your journey. Persist, believe, and achieve. That's my time.